Hi, I'm Michael Wan, News Director for Radio Korea.
And thank you for joining us on Culture Shock. My name is Young Kim, the Contents Director here at Radio Korea. And let's kick off our program today. And we have a special guest today. Every day, as we say, is a special guest. We have from...
And they were all special.
That's right. From the City Council in Rancho, Palos, Verdes, we have Paul Suh. How are you?
How's everybody doing? Thank you for having me.
Good.
I appreciate it.
Everything good? No, you're busy, right? A lot of things
Busy,
going on in
but
Rancho,
good.
Palos,
Yeah,
Verdes.
I can't complain.
So you're a native of the South Bay. I mean, we got to talk a little bit about his background. Now, Paul, he is a West Point graduate, which I'm like totally blown away by, right? How do you even get into West Point, right? But no, and he grew up just an average guy. It's the same immigrant story as you or I. Came with his father. His father opened a liquor store and worked in the business in a black neighborhood, a predominantly black neighborhood, for a very long time. And put you to school in the South Bay. You went to South High School. That's my daughter's whatever. I'm not sure if I even should be talking about this kind of stuff. But
he has a loose lip. Just
I know,
came
that's
out.
right. But you went to West Point, and you became. I missed that part in between, but you were also deputy district attorney with George Gascon.
So for LA County, I was there for about 7-8 years, and now I'm with the California DOJ.
You were with the infamous George Gascon. How do you feel about him? Can you comment on that?
I can. So I've met him on multiple occasions, and what I can tell you is he's actually a good guy.
I mean, everybody's a good person, but I think his policies are evil.
Yeah. So
but
we know how you feel.
The fire is burning within.
Yeah, there's certain things.
Probably
that
we
I
should edit
disagree
that
with.
part out because we're gonna have George Gascon actually, so we're gonna edit that part.
Why
out.
not? Just do it, man.
No, he's scheduled to come.
Yeah,
so,
there's policies that I disagree with.
What specifically do?
There's
you disagree?
there's a laundry list. I think some of them are very technical because I was in the office. And if I do go into it, a lot of people aren't going to understand specifically things like enhancements and certain crimes that are charged and not charged, what policies are towards juvenile justice, towards certain things like robbery and murder, and how we go about charging. I think the most important thing I need to say, I think, is in regards to the prosecutors that I work with, that I had relationship with, especially the public defenders, alternate public defenders, even the bar panel guys. One of the most important parts I think that people need to understand is that all these folks are working towards one goal, and it's just for justice. And a lot of these individuals are overworked. There's a lot of cases. So the amount of time they can dedicate to each individual case is very hard because of the case load. So I just want to give kudos to them and just shout out to them. But a lot of the leadership, actions and policies don't help them much, in my opinion. So I think that's what I need to caveat before I start is everything that I say is my opinion. It's not an official, position for my city or my office that I currently work in, things like that. But I think some of the policies could be tweaked to be better. And a lot of people have come up and asked me, hey, what can we do better? And we've had long conversations. I think you need another show for that, but that's just generally the idea.
Because a lot of deputy district attorneys who work under him has been complaining a lot about him. I think probably every single one of them that I met.
I think law enforcement as well.
Yeah, I think just generally speaking, just to give perspective right now, my understanding, usually it's about 1,000 prosecutors in the office, give or take. And right now, and you're going to have George, he can probably tell you better numbers, but from what I've seen and heard, they're lacking about 200. 200, 300. So if you have that many prosecutors in the office that are not there handling cases, then your workload is going to spike, right? And just generally speaking across the board for all the attorneys there that are in court, there's a lot of cases.
Do you think it's more of George Gascon's policy that is creating this problem, or Proposition 47 and Proposition 56?
I don't think those things are
stealing
probably
up. So just for our viewers to understand,
yeah, I think it's contributory. I think we can do better, but I don't think it's just. You can't just peg it on one single thing. There's multi-pronged issue, right? Yeah. So we can look at poverty, we can look at mental health, we can look at equity in our society. And you can't ask one individual to solve the problem, right? So the criminal justice, it's called a system. It's a universe of different projects and different people that come together to build a structure to help people that are in the system itself. People were coming in and coming out. And we want to focus on one individual to change the whole thing, but that's not the case. I think it should be approached from the state, federal, county, the city, the public defender's office, alternate public defender's office, the DA's office, working together to create a system that works the best, as opposed to everybody blaming one person. Now, I'm not saying that the DA's office is like the policies are working per se. What I'm saying is that it needs to be a multi-pronged approach to solve that issue, and it's a bigger problem than when we think.
Rather than pigeonhole it to one person.
Correct.
I just wanted to let our viewers know that Proposition 47 is it's okay to steal, and not okay, but it's a misdemeanor to steal up to $950. It's not per day,
No,
per store, right?
No, so
it's per store. That's what
So
I
you could do
understand.
10 different stores.
So you
and-
can that's what I understand.
An incident. So depending on how it's charged to. So it's very nuanced on how you do it, but those different props, they changed certain like specific crimes that were in the penal code, right? So it made the threshold a lot higher. So from my personal experience, before when you had guys that were doing petty offenses, repeat offenders, they had a different punishment. Now that went away, and then you had Prop 47, Prop 56. I think they're trying to reinstitute it in Sacramento. I don't think it passed.
56 didn't pass yet?
No. What I'm saying is trying to tweak those different propositions in the law. That's the current state of law now. But the threshold of how much you could steal or how much was at loss is higher. Before it was a lot lower. Now I believe it's $950. So, there's a lot of folks that know, right? You have perpetrators and suspects that know that law. And for a lot of reasons, they get cited out when they get arrested and things like that. So, the system is different from what it was before.
Like in San Francisco, aren't they closing down like Walmart? And what I understand is it's okay to pretty much steal, $950. I'm hearing from
Not only
cops.
that, there's
They're
a lot
just-
of Walgreens that are closing down because of that. But I mean, from a business owner's perspective, I do get a lot of like eat and runs per se.
Okay.
And what frustrates me is that I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I can't do a darn thing about it. I can't grab them. I can't stop them. I can't do anything, or else the responsibility may fall on me. So I'm wondering, why are there so many laws that are being made that make the good guy credible for everything and responsible for everything, but the bad guy just can get away with it? We could even take a picture of them and also take a picture of their license plate, but for privacy reasons, the police say they can't do anything about it. So what can we do about this? We just have to take it?
No, I don't. I think the problem is it's complicated because of the political environment, but at the same time, we have a lot of laws on the books, and we have one of the stringent laws in regards to gun control and things like that. But it comes down to enforcement, it comes down to policy, and it comes down to your political leaders and the political environment that it's enforced in. I don't think, even for your viewers and everybody out there that are listening and watching, nobody feels that these things are right. What you talked about is correct. Now, that bleeds into different arguments, right? Because of poverty, they're doing these things. It's food. Can you get it comped? Taking things, stealing things, is that a right thing to do? No, it's not, right? Nobody thinks it's right, but it's about the enforcement and how we do policies around it, like how we're going to charge it, how we're going to help that individual get back on their feet so they don't do it again. I tell a lot of folks, like, because I was part of that system, and I'm still part of that system, what I always tell people is we need to focus on keeping people out of the system and what we do when they get out of the system, right? So before and the after.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
you need to cut off the pipeline, right?
But I think if you look at the
content
content of Proposition 56, it reduces to nonviolent offense. Like assault on police, rape for an intoxicated victim. If a lady is intoxicated and she's a victim, serial arson, reduce chance. So these are all considered misdemeanors now. That's what I understand now.
Not that the way that you describe it, I don't think they are. There are certain things that were tweaked, and there might be different offenses, but from my understanding, those are not. They're still felonies, from my understanding.
Okay.
And it's case by case. I don't know specifically what the proposition entails because I haven't seen it. I haven't looked at
reducing
it in a while,
to nonviolent offense. So this is a nonviolent offense: assault on police, rape for an intoxicated victim.
Yeah. So there's
arson,
different.
reduced chance to catch
And the
back.
reason why I say it's case by case is because let's say you have a gentleman or anybody going after a police officer with a pipe, right? and he's swinging that pipe, and that pipe hits a police officer. That's different, right? Because it becomes a violent offense. Now, there's certain serious and violent felonies that are also enumerated in the penal code that we already have. So it depends on a scenario, and I think that's the problem that that we run into every single time, because everybody wants to do this blanket statement or a blanket policy covering certain areas when everything should be looked at on a case-by-case basis. Because let's say, Michael, you come into court, your situation, your family life, everything that you've done in your life is completely different from Young's, right? So I'm not going to look at your case and be like, I'm going to do the same thing for you as for him, because your scenarios might be different. The fact pattern might be different, or what caused it, or who did it. Those things come into play, and they factor into how a case is handled. So what I'm saying is, you can't have one policy that fits every single scenario. And to me, I think that's bad leadership.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because rising crime, we see crime rising, and now Title 42 is expired today, tonight, right? And I think a lot of migrants are gonna come over. They say 80,000 is ready to come over here, and we can't verify where they're coming from. We don't know their background. We don't know whether they're terrorists. We don't know they're killers, rapists. We don't know any of it. But it seems like Biden administration is welcoming this. That's how I see it. I think this is by plan. I don't think this is by accident. So I feel like the crime rate is going to go up. And if we have this, like Proposition 47 intact, I think the good-meaning people are gonna.
I think
there's gonna be more good-meaning people becoming victims.
I think there's two things that we need to unpackage. There's the immigration issue in general. That's a very complicated issue that needs to be solved. Yeah. But at the same time, we can't generalize and say all these immigrants.
We're not saying all of them.
Yeah, well, I just want to be careful, because we can't peg them and say all of them are criminals.
No, what I'm saying is we can't verify them. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know where they're coming from. I think we should verify them at least, whether they're truly, trying to defect their country or whatever. But I mean, we just don't know who they are. And I think that in itself is a danger.
When I see sort of a pattern of things that go on within the current administration, or some of the past, I would say mostly left-leaning administrations, they've come up with more policies that, of course, protect human rights and care about an individual, not as a group, but as an individual, and try to cater to everyone's needs. But at the same time, I think it causes a lot of loopholes within the system, where it really does affect many of the Americans here that are going the right way or doing everything step by step. And I think a lot of people are getting fed up with that and getting tired of it and tired of being the victim. I think that's why Trump was so popular during those times when they were saying, hey, someone's actually listening to us. Someone's actually, talking for us, So, I mean, where do we draw the line? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't know if there's a line to be drawn. I think that the first position I think we should have as Americans is we need to understand, like, my parents are immigrants. We have a lot of folks that came to this country.
But they came the legal route. I think,
no, there is. But one thing I want to emphasize is that we have to be empathetic to what they're fleeing from or where they're coming from. And I think that's the first thing. We got to treat them as human beings. That's first and foremost as Americans. The second part is we need to create a system that is just, equitable, and fair in regards to how immigration policy is done. I'm not an expert on it. I don't know the federal laws in regards to immigration, but I think we can do better. There are routes that we can do to make correct law that are going to help people that are coming. I think that's the most important thing, and I think we forget that, and we start to demonize, and media takes a spin on it, and we go down this rabbit hole where they take personal experiences where they have negative experiences, and we start to generalize that to the whole population of folks that are coming in. So
I'm just saying, I got to stop you right there, because I'm just saying this because so far, ever since Biden administration came into office, more than 6 million plus, 6 million plus illegal immigrants came over here in the States, and we don't know where they are. And I know that they say, they're supposed to go to court, when they come over here illegally, or even for migrants, whether they're going through the proper protocol. Who's gonna go to the court? Nobody's going to court. They're not. So I think this policy, the southern border policy, is a complete mess. I think it's by design. I think they want more Democrats here, to be honest with you. I think that's what Biden wants. They know that they're going to vote for Democrats, and they're going to bring in, their family invite their family, and they also become Democrats.
you
They
know-
become citizens here, and I think this is by design, completely by design. It's gonna probably go to 10 to 15 million. Some experts are saying.
But I'm just
illegal
curious.
immigrants.
Why would they want that though? I'm just like
Because
kinda,
more
I wonder.
votes. They can
That's for
dominate.
votes.
No, I think
I
you know,
think so.
For a big part of that, I think I can't speculate as to what the White House is doing because obviously I'm not there. I'm not
Yeah,
on
I know,
work there.
yeah.
Do you want to go there?
I mean, I'm just saying this out of frustration because we
No,
see all this
and
chaos. The fentanyl,
Yeah,
I think fentanyl issue is also
frustration
coming
in
from the
regards to
southern
that-
border.
Oh, you're gonna have a stroke, Michael.
No,
Yeah.
Michael, I completely understand because I get that from people that I know and my personal friends and things like that have negative experiences, and that shades how they look at the issue of immigration, right? And we know a lot of folks that are Korean Americans and the Korean community that came over legally and illegally, right? But they're good folks, right? They want to live a better life. And, we can argue all day about, how it's going to be, crime is going to go up, are they doing the right thing? But I think from a governance standpoint and as a human being, I think what we need to really do is think about their situation, what they want in life, what they want here in this beautiful country of ours, and what we can do to basically better that, right? And the frustration is definitely there. The anger is definitely there because, they get run-ins. I've seen friends complain about not job issues per se, excuse me. It's more about the criminal aspect of it
Yeah.
because they have, those encounters.
Okay,
And
so
that's one person though, right? That's not the whole community.
so what do you think about these conservative state governors, like for instance Greg Abbott in Texas and also Ron DeSantis in Florida? They were sending these migrants, flying them to where? Martha's Vineyard, these rich areas.
Yeah.
Do you support that, or do you think that's also heinous?
No, I think that's terrible.
Why is
That's-
it?
that-
Why is it terrible then?
So here's this is the biggest part. You take human beings, you put them on a plane, and you move them.
But do you know
just-
the people suffering in El Paso, Texas? They're suffering.
Yeah,
but
but
they have
see,
2,000
just
illegals
just
coming
as
over.
just bear with me really
okay,
quick.
okay, all right.
You take these individuals, you take these human beings, you put them on buses, you put them on planes, and then you move them to a different part of the country for your own political purposes. You're not helping them.
I
or
don't
any
think
of
it's
that
a
stuff.
political purpose, though.
But it is
Okay,
though,
okay.
right? But that's tantamount to human trafficking if you think
I
about
feel
it.
like he's trying to send a sign. Hey, this is what we're dealing every day. Like in El Paso, you have 2,000 plus illegal migrants coming every single day.
He's making
it's
a point.
It's a complete mess.
No, yeah.
And, but you're saying that it sounds
Okay,
like
I'll let
that's
you
the
talk.
wrong
Sorry.
way to make the point.
so you're
right?
saying that it sounds like human trafficking, and it's
Yeah.
not for them. It's
So
for
if
your.
let's say
purpose.
I was governor, right, of the
But
Southern
it,
state.
but it sends a message though.
That's the wrong way to do it. There's messages to be sent, but that's the wrong way to do it. If you really wanted to have somebody really look at the situation, fly them out. Fly them out to Texas. Fly them out to
I don't
Florida.
think
They
do
don't
that.
fly
They don't
out.
do
That's
that.
the
Okay,
problem.
Joe Biden.
They
Joe Biden.
That's the
never-
way to do it.
Joe Biden never went to the southern border. Kamala Harris never went to the southern border. They don't want to. They want the illegal
I
immigrants
actually
coming
think
over
Kamala
here.
actually did.
No,
So-
that was a very far area. It was
I
like
don't
3
know.
hours
I
away
think I've
from
heard something about
Yeah.
Kamala Harris
I don't
going
I
know
mean,
if
she
to.
did
they
go
went or not.
around
I
there,
don't
but
know
not
the itineraries,
exactly in the safe area. She went to the
But
safe
also
area.
to point that out, the media reports it. But can you even trust the mainstream media? I mean, that's also
I
another
don't.
point of
I
view.
don't.
You know,
I
we
know.
just
I know they're
that-
lying every day. No, no,
You know what
I
I mean?
know
So
they're
this is
lying. I
like
mean,
this is a
the
total
mainstream
rabbit
media,
hole.
they don't talk about the Twitter files and all those. So they're out by that. They don't want to talk about the truth. I mean,
So Paul, I mean,
I mean, I
I-
get frustrated because Title 42 is something that we're gonna suffer.
I can
know,
see
I
the
can
California's
frustration.
gonna suffer. Arizona's gonna
I
suffer.
understand.
Texas is gonna suffer.
Yeah.
These border states are gonna all suffer. So we can't just pretend that this is a story that's from Mars.
Yeah.
This is
Here's
coming
a
from
prime
our next
example.
door
Just
neighbor.
for the AAPI community, right? One of the biggest things that we saw from different wars and different parts of our history where the United States has taken in people and have done really well, you can see different communities without, if looking at the Hmong population in Minnesota, right? Those folks came over. They had open arms, and those communities are thriving there. Carson, you have a lot of Filipino Americans there, and those are from different eras of our history where those people, those communities were able to come in to our country, and now they contribute. They're part of our community. They're part of the fabric of the United States. So we need to give people a chance, but at the same time, we need to do it smartly. We need to do it correctly. We need to do it where we're empathetic and compassionate to the individuals that are coming to the United States to gain freedom, right? Now, are you going to have bad eggs? Yeah. And every organization, every place that you have public policy, you're always going to have some type of bad egg that's going to ruin or try to taint the system, right? Or taint the policy. But we have to be very vigilant in how we we can't scrap the whole thing or make policy just for that one bad egg, and that's just a bad way of doing business. So, as you know, I'm going to emphasize again, as Americans, as human beings, we need to be sympathetic and compassionate towards it, because at one point we were beneficiaries of it, right? The
No,
Korean
but
community.
I think I wouldn't consider myself a migrant. I think I went through the illegal route and visa. We have to go through all that. Wait 7, 8
You mean
years.
legal,
to get-
legal, right?
Legal route,
route,
yeah.
yeah. But so do you agree when LA Times, they don't report illegal immigrants? They don't even write illegal immigrants. They don't even write the undocumented anymore. They say they are immigrants. I'm talking about people who cross the border illegally.
Now,
They're also
what they
considered.
use in regards to their reporting and how they, I guess, want to use vernacular and things like that, and that's on them and their definitions. I can't really opine.
I feel
on that.
kind of insulted as legal, immigrants.
Yeah, because
Why-
he took the legal
I
route.
understand.
Why do we
and
have to be compared to the same?
It feels like many people are lining up at the border. Not just even the people. I mean, I'm not saying they're all here for bad purposes. They all have some of them actually have very legitimate reasons, and they're seeking political asylum or whatnot. But there are also the fringe that keep coming in along with it, taking advantage of that fact, and they're not going to be here for good purposes either. So he's expressing his frustration on that.
I understand that frustration.
Yeah, I mean, I want to defend Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott on this point because I think they did that out of frustration.
So
They
shouldn't
sent
America
those
protect
migrants
Americans?
over there because they knew that that Biden-Harris administration has a complete open border. They want these illegal immigrants coming over here, migrants coming over here as much as possible. They're not kicking them out that much. It's not like the Trump administration when the border was pretty tight there.
Yeah.
So I think
You know-
if you guys want to play that game, then why don't you experience what we're experiencing on a daily basis? And you know what happened in Martha's Vineyard? They kicked them out. They kicked all the migrants out immediately. They declared emergency.
So that was the point that
declared
the
emergency.
Texas governor was trying to make.
Michael, you can have that opinion and speculate as to what DeSantis and Abbott were thinking and what they wanted to do. I think that's fine. As an American, you can have your opinion. But, I'm not going to opine on why they did it.
Okay.
I can see the visuals from it and why politically they might have done it. And that's my speculation as well, right? Because I don't have facts in their brains thinking, hey, I know for a fact.
So yeah,
But
I have
my
friends.
opinion on why they did it, and I think it's wrong. So
So you're an immigrant as well.
no, me. No, I was born
you were
here.
born
You were born here.
Okay,
Okay.
so your father was an immigrant, much like my father.
course.
They started a business over here and provided education for their kids, and that route, right? Me, I'm a very conservative person, from my upbringing and from I guess that time, right? And I expect that you or most Koreans would be of that background because of their upbringing as well, and also the background of owning a business or a small business owner, working with that kind of lifestyle or that kind of experience. I think a lot of people end up kind of leaning conservative, right? I always want to ask, like, you're a Democrat, and how did you go that route, and what influenced you to choose the Democratic Party?
So I think before I even engage or just answer that question, I do come from that. But a lot of Korean folks, right? A lot of Korean second gen come from that background. Parents going to church, you going to church, especially for me coming from the military, which is, historically more Republican than Democrat. I've been in those environments. I've seen what it's like. And
Rancho Palos Verdes is also pretty conservative too, right?
RPV is more Democrat now.
Yeah, but it used to be.
Historically,
Oh, yeah,
historically
apparently
it's a lot
it
red.
changed.
Yeah, a lot more red. But the biggest thing for me was this: when I looked at the party platforms, what I thought was correct in my life and the political leanings that I had, it fit more of the Democratic platform. And a lot of folks, I think, in our community and people that aren't politicals. When I say politicals, people who aren't in the in the daily insider baseball kind of thing with politics. A lot of folks decide on a singular issue. So when you see folks that are 50 to 60s or 60 to 70s, they might be or engage or say that I'm part of a party or vote a certain way based on one single issue. Because I've had that happen. But they're liberal with everything else. Government programs, getting social work, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to LGBTQ rights or gay marriage or religious items,
especially in the Asian community.
especially in the
I
Asian
would
community,
say
they'll
so,
vote
because
based specifically on that.
because the Bible and Christian teaching, but it's not like I don't think they have like hate in their heart. You know,
No.
the way that the mainstream media is portraying is that they have hate and they, you know, they have phobia and all that. Most of the friends, Christian friends that I have, they love their, you know, gay friends or transgender friends too. But what they don't like, what they do not like, is indoctrinate our kids learning when they're in the grade school and learning about these transgender treatment, surgery, and all that nonsense. I think that's what they object to.
So what do you think about California's push? Not just California, but when you look at the Democratic Party, their push to provide this kind of education, or to introduce this kind of education at a very early age.
That's a very hard topic, and the reason why is this: because I'd like my kids to learn about everyone, and everybody in society, because you don't live on an island. That's the biggest part. Now, what they teach, how they teach it, those are different things, right? You can debate that all day. And that's why you have different school districts. Some people live in certain districts because they don't want that. Some people do want that. For me, I want my kids to understand the environment and the different people of this world, and that it's diverse. Because once they step out of the doors of your house, they're going to run into a lot of different folks in their life. And I want them to be prepared and say, okay, I understand that. I want them to be empathetic. I want them to understand their point of view, their perspective on life, because everybody has different walks.
Councilman,
So-
did you see any recent sex education books? You'll be surprised.
I
But
have
That's
don't
not.
why I
you think it
object
could
to
be
that. That's why I
organic? I
object
mean,
to
it
it.
should be just kind of left organically, not like introduced at a certain age, which is kind of treating all the students like they're all the same too. Okay, since you guys are all this age, you'll learn about this now. Maybe they're not. Some of them may not be ready for it, or maybe some of them may not be mature enough for it, or it might give them some other thoughts that they may have never had before.
So me, I'm a product of LAUSD and
Public school?
For public school, right? And I remember
Pretty liberal education, I would say, though, right?
It's-
going through it, I couldn't tell
didn't
you.
think about it?
I mean,
Because
I didn't know
you're
either.
When you're a fifth grader, you're not really thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I didn't know either.
So,
but-
I
In
remember.
retrospect.
I remember my first sex education class. I think it was in, I want to say, fifth grade. I want to say
that sounds okay to me,
Yeah,
actually.
it was
though.
fifth grade. I remember watching them. I don't know if you guys remember this in elementary school, but they had these big old carts that had these huge TVs on there, and the nurse would play a video and say, "Hey, this is," I think it was childbirth or something rather.
I remember.
So we get classes, and then I think I had another one in junior high school and another one in high school. It was like slowly, we slowly learned about it. I think that's important. You learn it in a professional environment where a nurse or a doctor or somebody's telling you about it. Now, there's different ways of doing it. There's different ways of cutting the apple, and I don't know. I can tell you because I'm not an educator. So
But I can send you some books. You're gonna be surprised about the content of it. You have these two teenage kids, looking forward to
Kids?
giving. I mean, boys
Oh.
looking forward to giving each other oral sex and all that. These are kids stuff that 10-year-olds read in school. I mean, you would be really surprised.
Yeah, I have
about
not
these
seen
contents.
that. I've definitely not seen that. But it's. I think what we have to be frank, and we have to be we can't be naive about what our kids see, right? So I'd rather prepare them and have that conversation early when they can handle it, so that they understand what the world is like.
I think the blowback happened because ironically, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, because a lot of parents got to teach their kids, during the pandemic, and then they were seeing the stuff that they were consuming. And that's why the blowback is happening. And right now, they're trying to ban a lot of these books, actually.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
But I just want to leave this on a note that I've asked my kids out of concern whether they've received education like this, and my kids are not in the LAUSD, and they haven't said anything like that. They haven't said that they've seen anything like that yet.
Yeah.
But
I think
who knows
I
what's
think the
going
biggest
on.
thing is this is, it starts with the parents, right, at home, and preparing them and having those conversations, and not prepping them for hate, but understanding what's what, and that's on your parents, and that's on your family members and your nuclear family, whoever's there, your grandpa, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever, and I think it starts there. Your education starts there. You can't expect. In my opinion, you can't expect the school system to completely educate your child on every single thing that they're going to learn in this world. It's not going to happen that way, right? So I think your parents and whoever's at home has a big role to play in how they prep you going out in this world, and that's part of your education growing up.
So I understand why they want this education. I understand what the good would be in that. Remember when we went to school? Do you remember when we went to school in high school, right? Could any kid actually bravely walk up and say, "Hey, I'm gay"? They would be ostracized. They would be made fun of.
back in the day.
Yeah, it was a different era.
It was a
You and I went
very
to high school
different
a long
era.
time ago.
I understand. So
I understand it from that person. I'm trying to
Yeah.
see it from
No,
that
no, no. What
perspective that
I'm-
you don't want to breed like animosity.
So we don't want hate.
Yeah.
No,
that's
that's
completely wrong. I
definitely
mean,
what
there
we
there
do
has
not
been.
want.
What was his name? Matthew Stafford, right? Wasn't he a gay who got killed just?
There was
being
a
gay?
lot. There was a
of
lot.
things.
So here's-
Back when we were
those
in
are
high
all
school, there
wrong,
was
and
a
I don't
lot.
think there are
This is-
conservatives who said that's right.
This is my biggest thing with school is school should be the safest place that a child attends in public. And when it comes to safety, it has to be not only from bullying, but from those things where they feel uncomfortable or they feel threatened or they feel like they can't be themselves. I think that's a place where a child goes to learn, a student goes to learn, be it whatever curriculum that they're attending. But that's one thing that we as adults need to be striving for. Now, everybody's going to have their opinion in regards to what political leanings and what's being taught. You can debate that all you want. But the first and foremost thing is a student should feel safe at school.
Yeah, but Councilman, do you know we're gonna just wrap around with this question. Do you know that drag queens are reading books to kids in libraries? Do you know about those stories? Because
I've
actually
never-
there's gonna be one right besides Radio
No, they've
at,
held
Pio Pico Library. They're gonna have a drag queen book reading event come June.
They
I
had
think
it at
June
a
15th.
community college or something. I remember.
Yeah,
right?
so they're going to do it right here, in front of kids. And to me, I think that's a no-no. That's crazy. Why do you want to teach these drag queen stuff? You know what? When I was a kid, I didn't know about sex stuff until I hit junior high school. So even the Don't Say Gay bill, people criticize that of Ron DeSantis. I think it's common sense. What he's saying is he doesn't want even regulars, even opposite sex, to be known to kids. They should be pure. They should be innocent. And they can automatically know those stuff, later. And
yeah,
I think the drag queen thing, this is huge. It's going all the way around across country, and many parents don't know about this.
I didn't
So,
know about it.
Yeah, so there's gonna be one. So these are the things that's awkward. Why do you have to push these to kids? Why are you what are you trying to achieve here?
So here's my thing, and that's you're entitled to your opinion in regards to that, and everybody's entitled to their opinion in regards to situations like that. The ultimate thing is this and it's frustrating for me because we want to ostracize people that are different, and I think it has to be separated, right? It's hard to explain to somebody who's already have that already fosters some type of opinion in regards to that community, to the LGBTQ community. If you have a negative perception of that already, whatever conversation that we're gonna have, it's gonna be hard because I have to convince you that they're not bad first.
Yeah, but I have a lot of gay friends, and they're against it too. They don't want kids to learn. They can learn it naturally, but just I feel like the indoctrination, that's the issue that I have, to kids. So it's not about hating the entire LGBTQ+.
I have yet to see.
No,
I have
no,
yet
no.
to see any of the community members go and force themselves and say, "Hey, you're coming to this event. You're gonna watch this." I've yet to see that. I would be against forcing anybody to do anything in that sense, because that's what it sounds like.
Because
You
a
know what
lot
I'm
of
saying?
kids these days, I'm talking about Korean American kids, they're confused. Even here, there's a teaching institute here on the first floor, and the principal there told me that 20 to 30% of the students are confused whether they're boys or girls, whether they're girls, whether they're bi, whether they're trans, and I think because of these indoctrination, because what they are learning at school is you can be a boy if you want to be a boy, you can be a girl if you want to be a boy, no matter how you were born biologically. And I think I object to this teaching. I think it's nonsense. Why do you do this? And I mean,
Michael, can you tell me
Yeah.
exactly where they're doing that?
what's that?
Can you like specify a specific point in time or organizations that's actually doing that in a school?
Oh, I heard it from the principal there, the institute principal. So she told me that that's what's going on. The students are confused, and they come to her a lot and talk about these issues. They never talk about it to their parents. So that's why the parents don't even know about this issue.
So here's my thing, and in regards to this specific subject, away from the educational aspect of it, every person is their own person,
Yeah.
and they can make their own decision. And I don't think we as a society should be telling, and the same thing with abortion, right? We shouldn't be telling somebody what to do with their body. And that's their own decision to make. Now, when it comes to those types of situations that you have, right? Here's my questions. How does that affect you in your life? And how is that going to affect your child, especially if they're not in that environment? But, I guess at this point, it's a rhetorical question for me, but the biggest part is like they have that choice, right?
Yeah.
It's their opinion, however they carry it. Now, I don't believe in forcing anything. Okay, so that's what I'm
I understand.
kind of seeing or hearing from you.
Uh-huh.
But I have never seen or heard of any situation where somebody's going out from that community and forcing people to say, "Hey, you're going to come to this event, and I'm going to read this book to your children."
Oh, they're not forced, of course. I mean,
I've
the
never seen that
parents, the
before.
parents who bring the kids there, I bet they support.
And
that
that's their
cause.
choice,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And if they want their kids to be educated in regards to who is in our community, the diversity of our community, different people of our community, that's their decision, right?
Okay, got it.
And I think that's fine.
Okay, we're going to be back right after this on Culture Shock. We'll be back with Paul Suh.
인사 에티켓, 지구를 위협합니다.
라디오 코리아 사무실에는 전설의 인사 귀신이 살아요. 과연 라디오 코리아 인사 귀신의 하루는 어떤지 한번 따라가 볼까요? 복도를 지나가는 A 직원에게 인사 귀신이 반갑게 인사를 건네네요. 그런데 항상 이런 식이에요. 귀신이 보이지 않는 건지 인사를 받아주지 않아요. 인사 귀신은 복수를 다짐합니다. A 직원이 업무를 하기 위해 자리로 돌아오고 있어요. 이게 뭐죠? A 직원의 자리에 쓰레기가 가득하고 보고 싶지도 않은 끔찍한 사진이 마구마구 붙어 있어요. 인사를 받지 못한 인사 귀신의 복수는 아주 오싹해요. 때마침 그때 B 직원이 반갑게 인사를 받아줍니다. 감동받은 인사 귀신은 보은을 다짐합니다. B 직원도 자리에 앉으려나 봐요. 우와! 인사를 받아준 B 직원의 책상에는 과자도 있고 인형도 있고 금은보화가 잔뜩 쌓여 있어요. 인사를 나누면 귀신도 사무실도 행복이 가득해요.
서로서로 반갑게 인사를 주고받는 사무실 문화. 보이지는 않지만 하루를 행복하게 만들어줍니다. 오늘은 먼저 인사를 건네보는 건 어떨까요? 이 광고는 라디오 코리아와 함께합니다.
And thank you for joining us once again on Culture Shock. We are back with Paul Suh, a city councilman for RPV. And
Rancho, Palos, Verdes, right?
That's right. That's right.
RPV for short.
That's a great area, actually.
I know it's rich. Actually, isn't it a rich area? Affluent area.
Yes.
It's a nice area.
It's a very nice area.
City of Los
Quiet
Angeles.
area.
I think people consider it that way because of what's there. But a lot of folks, a lot of senior citizens are on fixed incomes, and because they've been living there for so long.
Okay.
Now the property value has obviously gone up in 50 years, but there's a lot of folks that still need help. And obviously it's better situated than a lot of other communities. We're definitely blessed in that sense, but there are a lot of folks that still live from Social Security income and things like that.
How many Asians? The percentage?
I think on the Hill, I want to say 30%.
30%.
30%. That's a lot of Koreans too. Korean Americans,
There's a
right?
lot
But that
of-
also
yeah,
includes
correct.
like the Indian community, the
So-
Indian American
So
community,
the
and the Chinese American.
API, NH communities, but I think give or take about 30%. Yeah, at least in my city.
Let's talk about gun control issue. Second Amendment issue. What did you think about what happened in Dallas with the massacre?
It's absolutely horrific. I can't, at this point, because we've had so many mass shootings, I can't tell you what I'm feeling sorry for anymore, or who I'm saying sorry to, or how many victims we have. It's just, it boggles my mind at the state that our country's in regards to gun control. It breaks my heart, especially seeing the individuals that were gunned down in Allen, Texas. And the biggest part is this for me is when I saw like the child that survived, the 6-year-old, the Korean American kid, he doesn't have anybody anymore, right?
The 3-year-old, right?
The 3-year-old passed.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
the
one
5-year-old?
6-year-old
Okay.
survivor.
The 6-year-old survived. And my son is 5, and I can't imagine. I was basically almost in tears. I was just thinking about it. I'm about to tear up now thinking about it because I just imagine my son having to go through the rest of his life without his parents and his brother, and it just breaks my heart. So gun control is it's very near and dear to my heart in regards to specific things that we should do as a country. We should definitely move forward to fix things. I think there's very specific things that we need to do, and I'm pretty sure you guys have opinions on it. But for me, it's something that's very, very urgent at the forefront, and something we need to take care of like now.
Well, the way I see it as a Second Amendment advocate, if there were no guns out there, then I don't see why we should get guns, right? But it's already way too late and past that.
400 million. Right?
So any kind of gun control that you're further doing, that California has its own set of rules in the roster. Right. Any further things that you're doing is, I think, it's sad that it's negative towards the rightful owners, the people who are, responsibly having guns and use it for self-defense or whatnot, because then it limits them while all the bad guys have everything else that's, out there. That's the way I see it.
I have a lot coming from the military, I shot everything under the sun, from a handgun all the way to a tank, right? Mm-hmm. And those tank rounds are big as my leg. So, I've been around it pretty much my entire adult life, and I know the destruction that it could do. So, like, if you want to start with ARs, right? AR doesn't stand for assault rifle. It starts for
Armalite.
Correct. So that is an offshoot of the actual original M16 that the military had, and that was instituted way back decades ago, right? And you know this. Then that was specifically created to wreak havoc in enemy soldiers. Like there's rifling in it, the way the round tumbles and yaws, how it fragments into the body and how it does damage inside the body. The reason why they chose it was because of that damage factor.
So you're talking about the 5.56 round or the 2.23, but you would also agree that a 308, any of those, for example, even a Creedmoor 6.5 or whatnot, I think any of those rifle rounds with a rifle is designed to do exactly that, though.
The point I'm making is this: is like the ARs that are out there, they're not the same thing as an M16 or an M4. It's different.
Yeah.
No, it's a civilian version. But ultimately, the reason why those weapons were created are weapons of war. That's basically what they were.
He's actually the first Democrat that I've seen that have actually known about everything and is explaining it the way it is.
Yeah, so,
but he knows his stuff.
But the genesis of it, what I'm saying, the point that I want to make is that it was a weapon made to go at enemy soldiers. That's what it was made for.
AR-15.
The M16, the M version, the military version of them. Now, the ARs that were built, they're the civilian versions. They're not fully automatic. They're not any of that stuff. But what I'm saying is, originally those things were made to destroy something and other human beings. That's what it was made for. Now, I have a lot of friends that are, gun owners. They're law-abiding citizens who have them. That's fine. But what we need to, from a governance standpoint, is how we regulate it, how we go about, how we regulate vehicles and cars. How many deaths there were, in previous decades about seatbelts and things like that. Same thing with the alcohol industry, how they regulate that. Same thing with tobacco. Those things kill people. Guns kill people. So we should have stringent laws to actually regulate that industry and how we go about doing it. Now, I'm not for taking guns away from people, legal gun-abiding citizens. What I am for is doing background checks, making sure that people with mental health issues that have a history of violence, guns don't land in their hands. Having systems where you do the checks and balances so that people don't have those rifles. Better enforcement when it comes to how we handle weapons, how we charge for weapons, how we go about getting illegal guns off the streets. Same thing with ghost guns. I saw this problem coming probably about 7 years ago in regards to ghost guns. I saw a case where a guy was selling it out of the back of his trunk. And when I asked the detectives, I was like, hey, did you find any serial numbers to track them to figure out where they came from? There weren't any. So, that's a big issue too. So ultimately for me, I'm for, instituting laws where we take those types of guns off the streets. Now, we can argue about why it's needed and people enjoy it for sport, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, the genesis of the whole thing is that it's a weapon of destruction. It's a weapon of war, right? Why do we need that?
How about metal detectors? Why don't we install more metal detectors at outlets or malls, like the airport? Wouldn't that make it a safer environment? Because I think the gun control issue is just a political issue. It always go back and forth between conservatives and liberals, Democrats and Republicans. I don't think things change that much. We increased more regulations, but I think there are more massacres happening. So obviously there's a huge gap. How can we put more restrictions? How come it's increasing? And if you look at Chicago, they have the most stringent, right? tight gun law there, and then it happens every weekend. You know, the shootings happen gang against gang. So I don't think more regulations is the answer. Personally, I think metal detectors will probably be more practical, like schools.
I think it depends on how we do the regulation, because it's one of the industries that is very small. Here's just an example, right? ATF, you guys know what ATF
Yeah.
is, right? Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. It's a government agency.
Yeah.
They have, in terms of special agents, I think the number is about 4,500, something like that. The FBI has 35,000, and that's a federal agency. So in terms of resources, you're asking an agency to go track down and basically, you know, illegal arms dealers, et cetera, in the United States and how firearms are tracking and falling around. You can't do it. It's impossible, right? To have that group of people do the entire United States is pretty hard. So if you really want to get those types of weapons off the street, right, illegal firearms, things that are ghost guns off the streets, you need to bulk up those agencies and enforcement behind it. That's not the same thing as taking guns from people. That's different, right? I have friends that hunt in the South and in the Northeast, and I think they should have certain weapons. And the reason why was one of my friends who lives in Vermont. He drives to work in the morning, right? But he kind of lives in a remote area. He had a bear standing outside his door. Now, do you need an assault weapon, or do you need a machine gun for that
You need
bear?
a bazooka.
You know, but he has a rifle, right? And for him, that's good enough. You know, but that's the point. Is that, you know, there's certain scenarios where it warrants it if you're going hunting and whatnot. But do you really need something that was made for war? Not really, right? That's why I'm for that regulation.
Since you talked about ATF, do you know the Fast and Furious scandal?
Way back when, I've heard of it. I don't know the
you don't
details
know the
behind
details about
no,
it?
No.
No, I think
But
the
I definitely
government.
heard
I
of
think the feds are kind of involved in fishy stuff when we see this Fast and Furious scandal.
And
about
you know,
the
we
guns.
could,
but
we
you know,
could
since you don't
definitely- I
know
don't know
the
too much
in
about it.
detail,
I've heard
you
of
know,
it, but I don't know the details behind
Okay.
it. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we don't
when
need
you
to talk
see
about it.
what's going on in the world lately, I mean, there's a lot of distrust in the government.
Sure.
There's a lot of distrust in the laws that are being made, propositions that are being passed. I mean, there's been a history of lawmakers and also government officials, not officials, but lawmakers trying to, you know, hide little proposition clauses in between. At this stage, is America, when you look at America right now, is it getting better or worse? I mean, where are we going in America at this point?
I think that's a hard opinion for a lot of folks.
It is.
In my opinion, if you look at the arc of history, I think we're doing a lot better.
Really?
Yeah.
We think that
And-
things are getting really bad.
And
worse.
here's the reason why, right? Look at the civil rights movement in the 60s, okay? And right now, and where we're at in terms of the arc of history, we're constantly getting better. Our society, and when I say the institutions of our country and the principles that
I think
hold
we are
they-
getting better, but the past probably 10 years, I think the relationship between the black community and other race, white community, has deteriorated. And I blame a lot to Barack Obama, to be honest. I supported him, but I think the racial division has gone worse, you know, ever since the Obama administration.
I think
Actually, you
that's
know
your
what-
opinion. I don't.
Go ahead.
You know, it's for me. Race relations, in my
I mean,
opinion,
obviously better than, like you said, the civil rights movement, you know, Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Of course, much better than that.
Yeah.
but-
So when you look at the arc of history and how it's gone, I think we're in definitely a better place. Can we do better as a society? Yeah, we can always do better. But to look at one sliver of time, you know, in the past year and what we've seen and been fed through media, I don't think that's fair. I don't think you can make a fair assessment.
You think the media is reporting honestly about BLM movement and the anti?
You know, these days I don't think there's a lot of leaning, you know, to the left and right. So that's something
We had a
that
lot
you're
of
gonna have to
cops
research,
died
right?
because of BLM movement, but I think the media is not reporting about it that much.
I think there's a lot of individuals who've passed away. That,
Yeah, so
that don't
I
get
just
reported.
I just feel, you know, everybody wants, you know, equality.
Mm-hmm.
And they want blacks to have their rights, whites to have their rights. But I think the media, I blame the media a lot. I think it creates these kind of divisions.
No,
Yeah,
I feel
to a
that
certain-
way.
Yeah,
I do.
I agree.
No, I mean when you look at how the media reports things, the fact is that they want something to go with a narrative. I know what it is because they know what makes headlines. Just like we know what makes headlines and what gets views. When we look at the media, they know what riles up people, and they seem to be using that more and more and creating this this distrust, I think. But you know, I mean, just even look at like how media and even Hollywood was back in like the 80s or something. Every criminal that they showed on a movie was black. every time a criminal came out on TV, on the news, was black.
I think this is the most important part especially from a media aspect. I think the populace, right, the people in our society need to be educated and understand and be very sophisticated when it comes to listening to different news outlets and stuff like that. You can't be spoon-fed from one organization or one news outlet.
Yeah, I really agree with you.
And you
on
have
that,
to get
but-
it. You have to get it from everywhere, and you have to be smart enough to make that decision about what you think is true and what you think is false.
Exactly.
Now, ultimately, all these organizations run on money, right? And
big
the bottom-
corporation.
and
It's
those
corporate
things,
media. Yeah.
it runs it, right? So are you gonna have a leaning organization to the left and to the right? Yeah, but I think the most important thing is to empower people to say, hey, there are other news outlets that you should look at and take it with a grain of salt and have an analytical mind when you're reading these things to think about, okay, what's actually in the process? Who's making that statement? Why is it being made? I think that's more important than telling people, hey, you need to stop saying at CNN or, just get one information from one source. Or even same thing with Fox, right?
But isn't like the majority, I would say probably predominant, level, like probably 95% of the entire mainstream media leans left.
Well, I mean, left or right
I
or
don't know
not,
what the
but
percentage is,
my
but-
point when I was talking about what Hollywood was doing back in the 80s by representing every criminal as like a
As
black
black.
person is
So
that
you're
they
saying-
created this racism.
You're saying
Hollywood and the
yeah.
news industry created this racism. It made people, I think, see, or not see, but think that, if I'm going to walk past a person of color, then I should be afraid or I should be worried. I think Hollywood and the news industry has a big responsibility. And I think what they're doing right now, they should be responsible for a lot of this divisiveness and this hate that's going around.
Do you think are they still doing that, or are they kind of changing their attitude?
Well, they're
towards-
trying to clock back. I see them
Okay.
trying to clock back and trying to do the right things in a lot of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is now this focus is somewhere else between conservatives and the Democrats. And I see that going on a lot.
Mhm. I blame Hollywood a lot too. I think all movement, but basically I see Hollywood, big tech, corporate media, legacy media, mainstream media, whatever you want to call it. They all lean left. I think Time Magazine is left. They cut off all Trump's head. Like I told you before, Newsweek, also U.S. News and World Report, Washington Post, New York Times. New York Times never endorsed a Republican presidential candidate since 1956. So I think we should know about that. Also, that is far left in my view, and this is coming. I go both Democrats and Republican. I don't.
Sure.
I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat either. And also, if you look at Washington Post, also a prominent newspaper, right? You agree? They never endorsed a Republican presidential candidate. And if you look at even other, probably Wall Street Journal might be a little bit slightly moderate to the right, a little bit, but that's also that is just limited to their editorial page. Their
Yeah, so,
reports are not like that. So what I think is, I think that's why many people are gravitating towards alternative media, and that's why we started this program too, Culture Shock, because if we're gonna just copy paste the same narrative as what CNN or New York Times or WAPO is gonna put out there, which I think is a lot of them are junk. I feel like there is no meaning to it because we want to see truth. We want to talk about Twitter files. We want to talk about things that other people
for a
don't
lot
wanna
of
talk
folks, I
about.
think that just real quick is a lot of these things for a lot of folks. Frankly, a lot of people just don't care.
That's
Yeah,
kind
that's
of true.
true.
That's
You know,
very
and-
true.
That is true.
And then for a lot of
Apathy.
these folks, it's entertainment. It's just consumption or it's clickbait. So when we do consume these things, especially if you're looking for facts and truth, right? It's important that you really take everything with a grain of salt. You look at the facts that are coming from different sources and then figure out what's actually the truth. Now, is it getting harder because there's so many sources? Yes. And are there different podcasts that that bring on guests from different backgrounds and things like that for especially for you guys, and they talk about it? You can make a decision based on what they say as opposed to reading it or an interpretation to somebody else, right? So I think it's you have to look at it from two different lenses: people who are seeking the truth and people who are just doing it for entertainment and consumption, just for clicking it. So
Okay, so now back to you. Rancho Palos Verdes. What are your some of the things that you're dealing with over there, and how is it going over there?
So it's going well. I love it because we're actually affecting the quality of life of the people that are living there. It's nonpartisan, which is beautiful, right? And we're just basically fixing things for people that, you know, live in my neighborhood. My neighbors, people I see every day. I see them at stores. You know, my children go to the same schools as their kids. So for me, the major issues there's 3 of them that I think that I'm working on. Is cell phone reception.
Cell phone reception is bad.
Yeah.
That area is bad.
I know it's hilarious. I was
My
in
house too.
And
Yeah.
it's been like that for decades, right?
Decades.
Why can't
So
they fix that?
yeah, so I'll
problem?
get to that in a second. That there's electrical problems, power outages, and the last one is a landslide. And I was
Yeah.
telling Michael about this. We have the biggest landslide in North America.
Wow. That's
It's a huge one.
yeah.
So, you know, talking about that, right now, RPV is trying to get federal funding and local funding for $33 million to fix the problem. Fixing as in slowing down the landslide. Right now, certain areas move 2 to 8 feet a year.
So, I mean, so this could be detrimental to the residential areas.
Correct.
There.
So let's say we have catastrophic failure. The whole thing goes in the ocean. The whole backside that faces Catalina will go into the water. That means it cuts off PV Drive South, which goes into San Pedro. And then I think if we want to go around and go back to San Pedro, I think the mileage is about 18 miles. There's a sewage line that's above ground there because they can't bury it because the line keeps moving. So if it snaps, all that sewage from like 8,000 houses goes right into the ocean. So it's a big thing. And the last part is if it goes into the ocean, 160 houses are basically going to collapse. So
you have the ocean of the South Bay in your hands right now.
Yeah, you know, so we're trying to get funding for it from FEMA and the county and state and local government. So hopefully we can get it done in the next year or so.
Next year.
Hopefully. But we're working pretty hard to get that done. And then the other 2 is cell phone and electricity.
Yeah.
So we had a town hall not too long ago because there's SCE and, you know, Southern California Edison provides electricity in our area. And basically what I got from my neighbors is that power outages, away from what the weather was, it was like clockwork. You can bet money on when it's going to go out because the infrastructure is so old. I had a guy come up to me and say, hey, 20 years ago, I was standing in front of city council with the Southern California Edison guys sitting next to me and nothing happened.
So it's Southern California Edison then?
Yeah, so that was the main problem. So we asked them to come back in June. So that's next month to have a permanent plan to fix the problem, to change the infrastructure out and not put a Band-Aid on things.
Didn't they have something to do with like the wildfires, or I mean the mountain fires or something during the dry season?
I think PG&E and some other companies had other issues too. And the last one is cell phone reception. But the cell phone reception was a lot of folks didn't want certain repeating towers and fans for the cell phone towers because of how they looked. Plus, they had some naysayers saying that it was going to cause cancer and brain damage.
Environmental reasons, right?
Yeah. So now, but we're slowly moving forward with the plan now. So there's a master plan in place to actually fix it. So I'm hoping by the end of the year we'll have a lot better cell phone reception.
By when?
By the end, hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
Okay.
Cell phone reception, man. It's the electrical issues. That can cause a lot of problems there.
Yeah.
All right, Paul. You know what? Thank you so much for joining
course.
us
Thanks for
today.
having me, guys.
I always love having you
for
here. You
stopping
always
by.
have intelligent answers. You're always calm and explain things in a way that people are going to understand.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
for
much.
being a good sport.
Of
you know.
course. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, and that's going to be it for today's Culture Shock, and we will be back here again.
Okay. Thank you very much.